Hi everybody, welcome back to Flames Pyro Art for Beginners. This is part 3 of our series looking at hair. In part 1 and 2 you'll have seen I was building some structure, putting lots of lines in on the hair, trying to mark out some sort of feel for the shapes. But then what we have to do is we can't obviously say, if we see up here how it's all white, we can't leave it like that. We need to fill it in, blend it all out, to give some depth to the subject that we're working on. So at the moment I am using my medium space shader on setting 3, and basically I'm trying to add some volume and depth to the hair. Some strands I will leave white to be like front and forward, but in the main you need to take your time and carefully blend out all those strands you were doing. They need to be coloured in, unless you've got someone with grey hair, which I suppose maybe then you could get away with it. But we want it to have a more flowing effect, and at the moment it still isn't flowing, is it? We've still got a lot of work to do to try and capture that flowing effect. So definitely part 1 and 2 were really good for like helping me sort of build a structure and get a feel for the hair. But we need to go much further than that and actually colour our hair. And this is the bit that really adds, the realistic look, I suppose, to a piece. I suppose this is the most important stage, really. Trying to get the curls and the depth, and the shape going on. I'll just work away for a few minutes and maybe it will help you to understand a little bit more of what you've been doing yourself with the hair. Maybe like me, you were, putting all the shape of it together and then getting a bit lost with the realistic look. As it was, I suppose it was like a sketch look, which it wasn't a bad look. I was quite pleased with it, but I was after realism, and so I asked Valerie, who'd drawing with fire. She's one of the great pyrographers. I did ask her this morning, and she did say to me, you need to fill it in. And I said, yeah, it's still a work in progress. It's an experimentation piece. We're seeing what works, what doesn't. This is the first time that I've personally done a large what do you call it, volume of hair. Even though I've been doing pyrography for, I said, over 18 months, pretty much solidly every day, we mainly burn animals, don't we? And well, I like to mix it up and do, I don't know what you call them, static objects like cars, bikes, things like that, just to try and broaden that depth of knowledge. We're all learning, none of us are, you know, nobody knows it all. We're always learning new things, and we can learn new things from each other, which is great. That's what the community is all about, and that's what this channel is all about, just trying to share things I'm experimenting with so you can see the look and the effect and see if it's something that would work for you. It might just give you that magic moment where you just say, ah, I get it. And I chose a really large chunk of hair for, I suppose, for a first attempt, or a first proper attempt. But I always think if you aim for the stars, if you fall just a little short, you're still way up in the sky. So that's my thought process when I pick subjects to work on. I like to make them as difficult as possible, because if you do fall short, you've still managed to get way up there, rather than doing something that's too easy for you. You learn nothing from the piece, you know, because you've done it so many times. You're comfortable burning whatever that subject, I hate to say the word burning, pyrographying, whatever subject it is that you normally do, and you're in your comfort zone. But every now and again, I think it's great to pull yourself out of that comfort zone and try something different, try and reach new heights. I'm far from a master pyrographer, but I practice every day, and one day I'm going to get to the level of master pyrographer just by sheer passion for pyrography. It's not, that's my drive, is my passion for the subject. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so always searching for perfection, and I'm not sure if as artists we ever see our work as perfect, and I don't know. We always see faults, don't we? We can always say, people say that's good, but we see the little things that we did wrong here and there, and that we could have done a bit better. We're our own worst critics, I suppose. I'm not sure how it's looking now on camera to you all. I am trying to, not all at once, add the volume to this hair in different shades. If you do it all in one shade, it will all appear to be at the same level. So you need some lighter tones, some darker tones, some mid-range tones, and I think that is where the skill and the time is working out where to put the darker tones, how to make it look, let's say this bit that's curling round, how would we show a curl? Would we bring it around here and leave a highlight? Perhaps. Just keep experimenting and see what happens. I thought I would do this video because I know part 1 and 2 was like a bit of a, I felt like a eureka moment that I'd actually began to suss out hair, and then I was shot down a bit this morning that no, you still haven't fully come to terms with how to do hair. So it was a bit of back to the drawing board, and let's try and colour this hair. Let's try and give some shape and depth. It may take me another day or two, but I don't care. I don't care about time restraints. Time is immaterial. If you're enjoying doing something, that is the ultimate goal in life. If you can follow your passion, I can guarantee you, you will have a happy life. Now, me and my wife's passion is creating art and things, other crafts. That's our passion. We like to try and bring joy to people and spread joy and happiness and compassion. And this channel was born through compassion, really, because of how pyrography came along when I needed something in my life, and how it gripped me so strongly and made me keep pushing and pushing to get better and better. To when I see all these wow pictures on Facebook, I want to create art like that. And so I practice and I practice. And that is the secret to any skill. You think about, let's say, a sportsman, for example, or sportswoman. Let's say a tennis player. Yes, they may have been born with some natural talent to hit the ball with a racket, but I can guarantee you they've practiced and practiced and practiced for thousands of hours, because that's their passion. They get paid a hell of a lot of money for their passion. But imagine that, following the passion, which is whatever sport they do, they're so passionate about it, they get to elite level, and then they make a lot of money. I'm not saying as pyrography artists we're gonna be anywhere near that level, I'm afraid. Not unless we get extremely lucky and go viral or whatever. Or we create a masterpiece that someone stumbles across. So always set yourself a hard target. So what if you fail? If you fail, you can sand it out. Start again. I mean, this is a piece of birch ply. They're a pack of 10 for, what is it, about £13, something like that. You know, it's not a lot of money, and guess what? It's got two sides. So if there's a fail on one side and you can't be bothered sanding it out, say you've burnt too deep, because sometimes when we're burning deep, like dark, we're really absorbing the heat into the wood, and sometimes it's very difficult to sand that out. So flip the board over, start again. Every failed attempt is one step closer to success. So never give up, don't get disheartened. I'm not getting disheartened by people telling me, no, you need to give it a lot more volume, you can't leave it white. I've taken that on board and I'm going with it. Adding the shading. So people ask it as well, show me a reference picture. A lot of the time, for me personally, once I've got the outline of the structure done, if it's not somebody paying me to do it, then the reference picture is in my mind. I just work from imagination. So I mean, you can see the reference picture, but I just use that as a guide, and then we all put our own stamps on. I can guarantee you every single artist with a reference picture I showed you, every artist would do the hair differently. I can promise you that, because everybody has their own unique style. But I'm going to continue filling in all the white, try and get some depth, and then I will come back to you. I'm going to do this as the last video in the hair series, so I will add another part to this upload as we near the finish line of colouring in this piece, and let's have a look then at what we've produced. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great Sunday. Take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for spending any of your time with me. I really appreciate it. If you want to leave me any comments, please feel free. Like I said, this group is just to try and share tips, knowledge, experimentations, look at new techniques of things, of ways of working. Maybe you could leave a comment on the way you do things, you know, and we can have a look at that. That'd be great. Well, take care, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks, guys. Bye. Hi everybody, welcome back to part 3 of Flame's Pyro Art for beginners, and we're looking at the hair series on this pyrography tutorial, little 3-part episode. Now, during parts 1 and 2 you saw me sort of building some like framework to this lady's hair, but then that's only a part of the process. The next stage of the process is actually sort of like colouring in the hair and giving it depth, because obviously hair isn't just lines like we can see up here at the top, is it? You know, nobody's hair looks like that. The hair is flowing, isn't it? And it has different depths of shading and contrasts to try and give the perception of deeper hair and closer hair. And I've found that this is the most time consuming and maybe the most crucial element of creating hair. Now, a lot of this has to be done through your imagination, I found. It's taken me 2 sittings to fill the hair to the stage it's at now. I don't know what it looks like on camera, but to me there's still a lot of white here, and so we're still looking to get more depth and flow and sheen and just a better look to the hair. So for all you people out there who are just venturing out into starting examining human hair, it is multifaceted. There's stages to it. There was stage 1 where I started seeing where I wanted to put lines, and I could see this structure getting built. And then as that evolved and I looked around, I realised that hair doesn't look like that. It has to be like silky, doesn't it, and smooth and all running nice. And this is the tricky part. So I wanted to do some of this bottom part on video, this is where the darkest recesses are of this lady's hair. So what I'm doing, I'm like adding sort of strands of hair, but I'm then giving them more volume behind them with a darker tone, so you're in effect showing that there's a deeper area. I mean, obviously see this white line here is too wide, so we have to make it thinner and make it look more of a flow. I'll work away and hopefully it will sort of make sense to you as I go. This is just all from just imagination now. I'm not using any reference picture. Reference pictures may be fine for some hairstyles, but for the image that I originally had for this, I think it would be an amazing challenge for anybody to put every strand of hair in the exact place of that reference photo. So it is forgiving, it's hair, but it very much is about your own imagination, I found. I mean, I don't know what it looks like to you. It might look rubbish. I don't know. I took a photo of it last night as I finished for the day of filling in, and it didn't look too bad on this side. You know, it was starting to come together. But there is definitely, this is the time consuming process part of creating someone's hair. And I suppose if you do look at pictures, I know weirdly enough, like I've been examining people's heads of hair as I've been doing this adventure, or this experiment into human hair, and I've noticed that you don't see all like strands, you just see like flowing colours and the odd highlights where the light catches and stuff. You don't actually like see every individual strand of hair, you just see flowing locks, if you will. And that's what we've got to try and achieve. And it is very much a trial and error process. Say here, for example, where I am now, I can make a really dark pushed back patch by carefully shading in down one side, because we're still looking at what's behind the clumps of hair in front, but we also have to sort of infill what's behind them front clumps, if it makes sense. but we can't also make it just one tone. It has to be different shades. I mean, I'm using my extra small space shader and I'm on setting 2.5, so it's burning quite hot. So I am moving quickly with my strokes. As I build up this darker bottom. As we see down here, as we can them reference lines we put in at the start, we can use them, but they will have to be sort of shaded over. And there's lots of magical little tricks we can do by, if I just turn the board slightly, sorry, here we can have the hair coming out from a dark recess out into, I'm going to have to turn the board, I'm sorry. Out into the lighter as it starts coming forward. If you think about this curly lock, it'll start from way inside, won't it? Way inside the darkness. And then as it curls its way out, it's gradually making its way to the light. And so when the light hits it, excuse me, it will be lighter. So these are the sorts of challenges I've found. By no means have I mastered hair yet. It is definitely something that needs a lot of practice and patience to build up the volume. I mean, luckily I'm one of them types of people, I can just sit here for 5 or 6 hours and just do this and just try and get myself into like sort of into the zone and try experimenting with different little shading colourings, because all these white areas still have to, I mean, I think we do need to leave some unburnt, but we definitely need to have a flowing sheen, and I think that's what we're lacking at the moment. Then I also got to wondering of like how we can show like a curl, you know, like a sweeping curl of hair. And see if this hair's coming from round the back a little and more round to our eye. But it's been a great learning adventure, and I'm really glad that I embarked upon this journey with hair. Whether it ends up to be a burn I'm proud of, I'm yet to discover. My wife liked it, and she's an artist, so she will tell me honestly if something's good or bad. She will pick the faults out, and she was impressed with what I'd done so far, so maybe we're on the right track. Maybe as one's skills get better, maybe people can turn the heat up more, and they can burn the hair in faster because they're more experienced. But as I and maybe you were less experienced at hair, then it takes us longer, doesn't it? And that's the time it is immaterial. It's, if you get tired of doing the hair of a piece, put it to one side, do something else for a while, come back to it at a later date when you feel ready to tackle it again. It's just I'm one of them people where I've always had a patience for doing things. I can just sit there for hours and hours just fiddling and messing about. I know I used to do a lot of jigsaws as a child, so I could sit there for hours and hours with like bigger and bigger jigsaws. I think he used to do like 6,000 piece jigsaws in the end for more of a challenge, and sometimes you could sit there for an hour or more and barely put a piece in. And as your mind began to see the shapes and those little details you were looking for on a certain shape, you could then start slotting them in, and over time the picture grew. And I think pyrography is a bit like jigsaw building. It takes patience. There is imagination involved. We've all got imagination. We can all do exactly what I'm doing. Like I said, there's no one, I haven't sat in a classroom and anybody has taught me the correct way to show people's hair or anything. I'm just experimenting, and I'm sharing it with you as an experiment. And if it looks like it's going well, then that's great. And I hope it's imparted some, even one little bit of wisdom with even just one person. It's maybe allowed them to see what they need to do with the hair they're working on their particular piece of art. And in my mind, like I said, there is no right way or wrong way. Do you remember there was a guy on Breakfast News, and he's still going now, and he does these dog pictures, and no offence to the guy because he raises lots of money for charity, so you know that's superb, but they're very childlike drawings of dogs, and he makes a fortune. And these are they are just doodles, so art is very, it's one of the weirdest sort of like things to be involved in, because there's art critics who will say, oh, this is that and that doesn't show this and this, but art is just what you want it to be, whatever. It's your interpretation. So I would just always say to you, just experiment. Maybe you haven't got as much time to spend as I have on doing things. Maybe you've got other things to do. I'm in a sort of unfortunate position where my wife is quite seriously ill, and we are still isolating as we're trying to find a diagnosis for a condition. So I do have a lot of time that I have to kill. And so rather than go stir crazy in front of the TV all day, I treat this like my job. I mean, I'm not getting paid for for doing this portrait of this lady. It's just practice. Maybe one day someone will come along and ask me to draw a portrait of one of the family members, and then I've got this time in the bank, this knowledge I'm gaining, whether I'm on the right path or wrong path, it's still a path. And there was these scientists that would always say, the way you look at, oh crap, sorry, like the scientists who would say, for every time they got it wrong, they didn't look at it as, damn, I got it wrong. It was great, that's one more thing to tick off in the wrong pile, if you know what I mean. So we're one step closer to success, to getting it right. There's the failed pile, as it builds and builds, eventually these scientists and stuff, they found the success. So all those like failed attempts and So if they weren't time wasted, they were all a means to an end. They were all a means to finding that one magical goal that they were searching for. I don't know, you could look at like Einstein and all this. I don't know if it was the laws of, or theories of relativity or gravity and everything. But all science and everything is about experimentation and finding out what happens when you do this, what happens when you do that, and the way, I suppose, in some ways, the way we have to look at art. What happens if we shade this certain way and that certain way? You know, what effect does it show? And I've just been jumping around all over the place with this hair. Not been working like one particular area all the time. I'm just jumping around, much like you would a jigsaw when you're finding different pieces. I'm just slotting in more parts of the puzzle and see if they fit in the right way. So one great thing I've learnt from this, and one word of wisdom I would pass on to you, is just do what comes naturally to you. Do what you think, what your mind tells you, what your mind perceives. Just go with it. You don't look for like, oh, that's not the correct technique or whatever. Just follow your mind, follow your own imagination. It will lead you to the right place. We've all got creativity in us. We can all create and design a masterpiece one day. Well, it won't take a day. You know, for me it takes many weeks of working on something to try and capture a look. Like I said, I'm fortunate and unfortunate to be able to have the time to pursue this passion of mine, this passion for pyrography, passion for art that I discovered late. Well, not late in life. I mean, I'm only, I think I'm 45, 46, so I'm not old. But I stumbled across a love for pyrography and a love for creating a bit later in my life. I had no interest such at high school or anything in art. I always found it cool and stuff, and me and my brother have always designed our own things. When we used to have a window cleaning business, we could always, he used to laugh because I would make my own solutions to problems with bits and pieces I'd lying around. So I suppose that's also creativity, isn't it? So we've all, it's inside us all. It's just how far are you willing to go to create something that is like a real like wow piece, or would you rather just play around as a hobby, not spend like 2 or 3 weeks on one piece? You know, maybe you get bored before then. I suppose a lot of people will get bored before they see this job through. It can be very tempting just to turn your heat up, but then imagine all the work you've put in, you could spoil it by turning that heat up and rushing to get done. There's always tomorrow. There's always a new day with life. Life goes on. Tomorrow will be here. What day are we on today? Monday. I'll be here tomorrow, and I'll be here tomorrow colouring in this head of hair still working on it, still researching, much like a scientist or whatever, just seeing if what I do is any good. But definitely you have to build volume. I mean, in some ways I wish, for one, the portrait I picked, she had so many strands of hair going everywhere that would have been just too much. I suppose really you should have picked a nice, easy, flat hairstyle to start with. But no, like usual, I pick the toughest subject or the toughest reference picture possible for someone new to hair and try and tackle it. Well, as I said earlier, if you reach for the stars and you don't quite get there, you're still way up in the sky. I would rather fall a little bit short of the stars than still be standing on the ground. So that's some further thoughts of part 3 of this lady's hair. As I said, I don't know what it looks like to you all. I'm going to continue filling in this bottom part to the hair, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more work going on with different shaders and trying to experiment with different looks. I'll take some pictures. One good little tip I've got for you, which I found, and it's honestly, it does work. I look at this now and I see a mess in front of me. I see all these white patches and everything. I can see all the flaws and imperfections. Take a picture with your mobile phone at what you've done and it will look completely different to what you're seeing in front of you. I can guarantee you that it will look different. it will give you such a different perspective. It could show you places where you need to improve. It could show you places where you've got it spot on, but it does work. Every now and again, maybe as you're nearing the finish, take a photograph, have a look at it, and it will show you where you need to go next, you know, where you've done well, where you've not done so well. It was crazy yesterday when I took the image, and I looked at it and I thought, actually, it's not too bad. On the photograph, but when I'm sat in front of it now, I can just see a lot of white. So there's the thoughts for more of part 3 of the hair burn. I know a lot of it's just my ramblings as I work. But hopefully, when I come towards the end of this, I'll have a greater understanding of what it takes to build a nice flowing head of hair, and I'll be able to explain it to you all a lot better at the end of part 3. So don't worry, there is more to come of part 3. So I'll say take care for now. I'm going to carry on for another half an hour or so, and I'm going to call it a day. Go and get some cat food for the cat, because the cat's mithering, and I forgot to get its cat food this morning from B&M, so I've got to take a walk to Co-op, because our cats will only eat Go Cat. Fussy buggers, they won't eat anything but Go Cat, and the cat's mithering for food, so I've got to take a walk to Co-op and get some, because it's Co-op or Home Bargains that's to sell it. And I'm not going to Home Bargains today because the world reopened today and everywhere was crazy. I had to take my son to the bank this morning to move money from his trust fund from my dearly departed late mother. Left him and my other son some money each for when they turned 18, and I took him today so he could take ownership of it, and town was crazy. So I won't be going near town. I'm going to Co-op. It's just a 5-minute walk down the road. Okay, so I shall see you all a bit later on in part 3. Take care, stay safe everybody, and I'll see you shortly.